Okay. Do we want to get started?
I think we should. I think we
Yeah.
should. So, welcome back everyone to another episode of Tangents and Shenanigans. We're here to discuss episode 2, the episode. Bum bum
Snape kills
bum.
Dumbledore.
Yes, in a different universe.
Yeah.
But
I mean, kind of not wrong. I mean, I don't know.
what do you guys think? Like the opening shot being the dream sequence that we see, but this one having like another little twist with older Abby talking to younger Abby, saying like, "Don't go in there." Like almost this is like a conscious dream, and she's having like an episode where she's like disassociated with the present moment and is like thinking back to this memory and kind of like talking herself out of like reliving this memory, reliving that trauma. I don't know. Like, what did you guys think about it?
I wish this was one of the first scenes where you introduced the Abby as a character. Like, in my
In the
opinion,
first episode?
in the first
Yeah.
episode, I feel like my preference is okay. The end of the episode, some girl shows up, and then it's like, who's this group that's looking at Joel's area, like Joel and Ellie's like town? And then the second episode starts off with this, and then it kind of starts to like introduce her as a character. I
that would
really
have been
didn't like that. I really didn't like that first scene with her being like, "I gotta kill them slowly," and like,
they really forced that point.
look at all my Hollywood like Gen Z like survivalist kids, and I'm like, all right, like it felt like plot. It felt like it was pushing plot, and I'm like, this just like when you do that, you kind of like take out the the humanity, take out the kind of genuine dialogue that would come out of it. It just felt kind of forced. I wish
Yeah.
this was like the first one of the first scenes. That's how you introduce her.
Yeah, I agree.
I, yeah, it is. I mean, you do have a good point. The only other thing I was going to say about like Abby's character is, you know, she doesn't really come off as intimidating. So I feel like the little monologue that she has later in this episode kind of gives the viewers like that exposition that's necessary, like setting up the stakes. So like that happening right now like makes sense, but I didn't quite like how she was not flirting with him, but regurgitating like his description, like 6 foot tall, like, oh, and you are
Oh,
pretty
okay. You mean at
handsome,
the
like I'll
end?
give you that. I'm like,
Yeah.
why was that really necessary? Like, I wonder why they chose to do that, or if that was just off script moment.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure.
Maybe just kind of teasing them a little bit before she gets down to like whatever she wanted to do. It's like kind of the whole playing with your food type deal.
That's a good
Yeah.
analogy.
Are you implying that Pedro Pascal's a snack?
No, no, but it could be for other people though.
It's always the fridge that protects the snacks. Oh my god. But I don't know, like I totally jumped ahead, but like,
yeah, you jumped to the very end of the episode.
Yeah, you just jumped all the way.
I'll probably cut that.
No,
out.
keep it in. That's funny. Maybe an outtake, maybe.
But no. Back to the beginning. Like, I don't know. Like after that scene, yeah, I think you're right, Jacob. Like, I think that would have been, instead of the graveyard scene, seeing that, and then after that scene, like we don't see the room, but we see her try to go in it, and then it cuts, and then shows them at the graveyard scene, where she's like laying on the tree and she gets out of that moment. I felt like that would have been a better way of storytelling. But I mean, looking at it from just episode by episode as its own entity, I do think this is a good way of starting it out, just to give a little bit more introspect to.
Because I think
Abby's
that's how
character.
they introduce it in the game. Like they don't show her in the beginning of the game. They show just someone showing up, and then it plays out that way.
Because you
So
play as Abby first in the snow, like when
yeah,
you're already like in pursuit of Joel.
so I don't see the logic as to, maybe it was because the director doesn't trust the audience to like put two and two together, or like they want to as soon as possible bring up the villain.
Mhm.
Maybe because they're worried that like if we don't bring it up sooner, that they're gonna feel like we just tacked this on, and I don't know. It just get rid of that first scene. Like just get rid of that graveyard scene. Just have random people show up, and then have this scene be like one of her first like in-depth scenes of introducing her character, because we're gonna know what it means. The scene's
Yeah.
very clear. Like, oh, I know where this is.
Mm-hmm.
What's she looking at? I mean, like, give your audience a little bit of you know, of respect, not respect, maybe some confidence that they'll actually know. Um, and then yeah, so obviously you have that. It jumps to, obviously I did like, I forgot his name, but I love how he's like, I got a plan. I forgot that guy's name.
Owen?
Uh, Owen. And then everyone's like, what's your
Yeah.
plan? He goes, my plan is to convince her to go back. This is bullshit.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm like, because it is. You look at that, you're like, there's no, I mean, you got to play like, maybe if you play long game, but that's really hard to like figure out.
Mhm.
Um, how to like find a specific, that would take like months. I think
Yeah, and
that's
they
the
didn't
thing is,
even have, and like they had resources, but not enough to take on all of Jackson. Like,
No.
yeah, like even if like they were able to kind of somehow sneak in and cement themselves in there, they're kind of like stuck. Like, there's no way in hell they're going to go unnoticed without getting out
well, and
there.
they don't even know what this guy fully looks like. They can't confirm it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Abby doesn't know who Joel is until like someone says his name.
Yeah.
And so, because she doesn't have that much to go off of. I mean, maybe if they sat for like a prolonged period of conversation, maybe she could put it together, but it's not like, oh, I have a photo, I just have to see where he's at. It's like you'd have to figure out who the specific person is, which I think would require like a little bit more intel gathering, where it's like, oh, I'll pretend to,
Oh,
to be,
you'd have to infiltrate
yeah,
Yeah.
that
infiltrate. There you
area.
go. Exactly. So, um, what was it? So obviously, I think it cuts back to Ellie waking up and then saying that you're going to go on a good patrol. Um,
Which I do like how this was a beat for beat from the game's perspective. I'm like, oh, like I'm watching, I'm like, it's gonna be Jesse at the door. It's gonna be Jesse at the door,
Yep.
and it is, and I'm like, yes.
there was a
But
lot of that this episode, a lot of beat for beat.
yeah,
In
like,
terms of scene selection, not in terms of how certain scenes go,
mhm.
but in terms of very specific scene selection, you could tell beat for beat that they like took the source material and just went with it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other thing from last episode. We noticed that Joel and Dina actually have a little bit of a friendship. Like they have a bit of a relationship. So it was interesting that they chose to put Joel with Dina on patrol instead of with Tommy, and then giving Tommy a purpose. So like I guess it would be like story B, right? The B story of this episode is
Mm-hmm.
the
Which is the
conflict at
siege.
Jackson.
Yeah.
And by the way, like this was something that I think I've talked to like Nick, I know I've talked to you about this,
Oh
but
yeah.
Jacob, like one thing from the game I was missing was if like Jackson doesn't even feel like a character in the game. It's just literally your starting point and your returning point. I felt like all the conflicts throughout the game should have brought a fight back to Jackson eventually. So and it doesn't happen. So I love that in this episode it's like, you know what, no, like let's switch things up. Let's have like another arc with Tommy and Maria, and seeing what they would do in a situation where they have to defend the town, but also like defending each other in the midst of the battle, because there was like a lot of that going on. um but I did kind of like the setup to this, how they were in like the town meeting,
Mhm.
after like Joel, no, I'm sorry, after Jesse and Ellie regroup and get the, what was it, get the bigot sandwiches.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, the two
Yeah.
sandwiches. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was kind of a nice, heartfelt apology.
Yeah.
That wasn't sugarcoating it. It was very like an awkward apology. Which I don't know. I appreciated, even though obviously Ellie's not going to give a shit. Um, what was it? Let's see. Yeah, no.
They
So
do
yeah, I'm
the
trying to. I mean, I think we'll get to it. I'm kind of conflicted about the whole Jackson siege scene.
Oh,
Personally,
really?
I'm actually,
Okay.
yeah, I'm a little bit conflicted. Um,
I talked to some friends and they said they didn't really care for it. I guess like it was almost like kind of like, oh, we're just adding it to add it in. I guess if that makes sense.
because I kind of like the role that Jackson had before, in the original game, like
A
personally.
safe haven.
Mm,
Yeah, like a stability, a safe haven, a future,
right.
because it makes it makes Ellie's reason for leaving all the more personal and all the more irrational and an emotionally driven decision. Because like Joel's gone. I mean, first off, their relationship's already pretty messed up
Mhm.
because of all the things going on. Bad circumstances happen, and I'm not sure in the game they get her name or just like kind of one little snippet. Like I'm trying to remember how she figures out they're in Seattle. Um,
In the show or in the
in the
game?
game,
Mm,
because it's like I bet you all okay. Like game one is just like the whole dilemma is like okay, I got to get cargo from A to B. Do you know how risky and hard that is? And the justification is oh, because this girl's got the cure. And they're like, yeah, but we got to go from Boston to like what Salt? Is it Salt Lake?
yeah.
And you're like, you know what can happen between there and there? Like that is a huge risk even for this. It's going to be really hard to do this. And they have, of course, all these dynamics and things going on in terms of survival. Like, but that was such for like a noble cause. Now this is just pure revenge, and knowing that you have a safe haven in the game, it really makes you go, Ellie, is this real? Like, I know Joel's dead. Like, that is awful. But like, is it really worth it to like
Mhm.
go and then like continue the cycle of violence and revenge? Like, you might die before you even get there. Like, who knows what could happen when you get there? And yeah, like a whole bunch of bad shit happens. Um, and so like I think that's my first conflict is I did like that kind of Eden effect because it makes Ellie's decision to leave like even harder. But with this one, it's I mean, we'll have to see the aftermath in like the other episode, right? Because they kind of show it, but I
Yeah.
want to get kind of a body count here. But it made me be like, I don't know. I didn't like I did think it was a cool scene. I did enjoy it. I was like, dude, these are like World War Z type of like infected.
Mhm.
This is I love
Oh
seeing this
Because
yeah.
kind of guy.
yeah,
But
because you have a horde of runners, clickers, and then you see like one bloater amongst them.
yeah.
So they're just like they're not like the stalkers where they can strategically like plan an attack. They're just like aimlessly running.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it just made me ask more questions about the like the world building and about the plot and versus like questions about this, it made me more question those things
Mhm.
rather than made me like understand what the like the impact that was going to be.
Well, I
And
mean,
I feel like now, I mean, granted that event isn't actually really like directly Abby's fault, but it just gives Ellie a reason to leave even more. And I think the whole game's message was like, it's this lunatic narrative dissonance of like, why are you going to do this? Like, this is such a like a high risk thing to do, and the only gain you're going to get is revenge out of it. Like,
and that's the whole point. Like,
it's silly for Abby to do it. Like Abby,
mhm.
like why are you? What help is this? And the whole time, all of her friends are like, we need to figure out how to get out of this. Like, this is
Yeah.
just stupid. Um, so I think we'll probably go into it more as we go on through this talk, but I was actually conflicted. I didn't know if I thought that scene was necessary. I thought it was a really cool showpiece for the show, but in terms of especially when you compare it to the game, I was like, I don't know if that was like essential.
Hmm.
Well,
Um,
yeah, when you finish your point, I was going to bring something up from
I
the point I was
actually I
bringing up.
did like that Dina was with Joel. I will say
Yeah,
that I
Yeah.
love that
Same.
decision. I thought that decision made
That was
sense
perfect. Yeah.
because it creates a strong motivation for Ellie to be there. because obviously Tommy's a strong motivation for Ellie too. Yes, like okay, but Dina especially has a real emotional stake with Ellie. I can
Mhm.
totally see her being like, I'm going after Dina. Like I'm like, not even like I'm going after Joel. Like I'm going after Dina. Like I'm gonna go help her out. Like see if she's okay, not just Joel. It makes that much more realistic, and then it also makes like her eventually going with Ellie more understandable.
I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good decision as well for that specific reason.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it fleshes her out, gives her an emotional stake. But anyways, so there's things about that I'm like I liked, didn't like, and I'm just overall conflicted.
so the one thing we know from the games is even from like the first one, we do know that Jackson over the years of them keeping that place, they have been attacked by hunters and infected. So it's I mean it's fair to say that at some point we were going to see them under attack. But I like that we actually got to see it in this show, like in this way. Like you said, like it was a spectacle. There was a few moments though, like when it gets to that part, like
I think I know what
all of
there's a few. There's a few. I think I
like
know what you're mentioning.
they
I
just
was
like
like,
once
okay.
like I thought some really cool moments where they actually had like the barrels of fuel. I was trying to figure out, I'm like, is that oil? I'm like, oh no, it's clear. I'm like, that's gasoline. I'm like, all right, I see what they're doing. Create like a firewall. I'm like, that's a good idea. And then once you see like the bloater go over to the one side of the fence and break through, all of them start funneling through, and then like, okay, divert fire. And I'm like, okay, at how many times did Tommy have like significant plot armor on, going
A
out into the crowd with
lot.
handguns? He's just like pow pow pow, and then looking at Maria, and then like, I'm gonna save you, like, again, I
Yeah,
thought it
like
was
how he
cool.
was able to, how do you call it? Like he was able to kind of get the bloater's attention through that whole crowd while the runners are going past them towards the other people in the
I
street. And
know.
he's just navigating the bloater towards him, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna get him over here in this like 1v1 type esque area, and yet none of the runners were going after him or whatnot. It's like, okay.
No, no.
Well, hold on.
But
I'll say this. We still, I think, got a few more things to like talk about before we even get to this whole siege because I think that's a whole hour in itself. Um, well, I just want to kind of backtrack here because I think there's with Abby scoping. I mean, obviously there's a town hall, right? They, what was it? Ellie and Jesse find the weed like 7-Eleven,
Mhm.
which was funny.
oh
I
yeah.
just want, and then what was it? And then the kind of big turning point is when they go down. What was it? Abby tries to go down the hill, and they bring it up in the town hall where she starts finding like the pile of frozen bodies,
Mhm.
and that the others are being
Mhm.
insulated through it.
Which
Um,
I thought was a really cool way to describe it. It reminded me of that book, World War Z, because it talks about like during a season where they were like they remained dormant under the snow, and then in the summer once the snow melted, it's like, hey, we're alive again.
and obviously that triggers it. And I will say the shot for shot like kind of honoring of the game, especially when Abby is like, well, first off,
Running from
the
them.
way they run, that was like terrible. Me and my wife
Yeah.
were like, "Ooh, okay." I'm like, run quickly, please.
You know what's interesting in that? It's a combination of stunt people in prosthetics and makeup and also CGI as well. And
Yeah.
some of it you couldn't quite tell which was which. So I really liked that.
It was really good. And what was it? Obviously, just like how fast paced you have to run from those things, and like getting caught within the fence. Like it really, yeah, it made me feel like I was playing the game again. And then when they were
It-
chasing through the fence, I was like, oh God, this is so awesome.
that part right there, I love that scene. As soon as they start pummeling through the fence, like you know what's about to happen. For anyone that's like claustrophobic, that scene right there is like nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
But again, like going into the introduction of Joel and Abby, Nick, you had even stated that like this was a more like cohesive way to naturally flow the characters into
Yeah.
introducing one another, where she hears his name not
Mm.
initially, but after that whole interaction with evading the runners and going into that the building, and then that's when Tina calls out to Joel, and then you see that facial expression on Abby change drastically when she puts two and two together.
Yeah,
And
because I think
then
in the game it was more forced of Abby learning Joel's name. This one
it
seemed
totally
more.
was.
This one
Yeah,
was more
which
fluid because it's like Joel's with Abby at that point, and Dean's just calling out to him like, "Hey, we need to get the hell out." So that made perfect sense because I think in the game they were just forcing the whole okay, we need to have Abby learn that this is Joel to give that kind of like a aha moment for her. So it's just in the show, it's just more fluid.
Yeah, because in the game you have to play as Abby through this, because you learn Joel's name right off the bat, right? Like Tommy
Hmm.
yells it out, you guys get on the horses.
Yeah.
So the whole time
Hmm.
she knows, and you have to go through like several runner and clicker waves while you're trying to escape this building. So the whole time it's like if that was your mission, you could have just shot him right then and there. Like you
Or
had
may
the
it look
upper
like
arm.
an accident with all the runners around.
Yeah. So that
but I
I
think
thought.
she also realizes how vulnerable they all are, and so
Mhm.
it's just like fighting this urge. Like imagine just you've been waiting years, and all
Yeah.
that like it's all super quick, and it's all coming at you, and you just want to emotionally react, but you understand you're limited, and so she's like, we have to. I know a place we can go to. We have to keep going, and it's just this constant internal conflict that she has to just not act and not be irrational.
What
Um,
was what was interesting is once she knew it was him, you did notice that she like reached for her holster and noticed that the gun
Oh
wasn't there.
yeah.
I'm like,
mhm.
oh, she was ready to drop him right then and there.
And then she would have been dead, and then the game would
I,
have ended.
Yeah.
yep.
And I
uh,
think this time around too, like with the game of getting him to, the cabin, I feel like the show maybe forced it a little bit to get him to the cabin because like with the whole Jackson thing, because they used the little cordyceps in the pipes to call all the runners to get them away from their position.
Yeah,
And
when
then
they were
that's when,
breaking into it.
yeah, and then that's when
Yeah.
Abby's like, hey, since they're going that way, how about we go this way? So I think that's the show kind of forcing, like, okay, now that the runners are going opposite direction, they can go that way.
well, it's because it's going after what I mean. We were thinking that it was about the hive mind, and that the hive mind was telling them to go to the.
Right.
Which again, I like the mechanic of hive mind, but then I start asking myself more questions, like about in terms of mechanics of how the hive mind works, and how the fact that everyone who's just been dormant from all over, now like how is it that that causes
I think
such a
it's within a
dramatic reaction?
radius. I think they describe
That's
it
a
as
pretty
within a
big
radius.
radius.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But here's
but
the
who
thing:
knows how
the
far
more
the
questions
piping
you
goes,
ask, the
right?
more
Yeah.
the worse
Yeah,
it
yeah, and so
seems.
that's where I start being like, really, you're gonna tell me that like all of these like brain dead infected are just gonna go, oh, like there's food right, whatever is it, food, whatever you call it, and then the hive mind's like, oh, this one person like a few miles away, like hit on a route, so we're gonna have everyone go there instead. It's kind of like, what's the bigger distraction? And so, um, for the plot, they did that, and it kind of it facilitates and creates the siege scene, which I think the audience,
Yeah.
a lot of base audience wanted to see play out. I think it just was me more like, how are there even towns then? Like how, like doing this causes such a dramatic reaction. I'm like, how, you know, can anyone be safe from this? Like it just seems like it's
Yeah.
so, like I get if it was in a small radius, like if the infected were there and then it caused them to, but it's like up the mountain. I'm like, how do these like up the mountain like
But
folks?
again, we did see how long that sewer drain was, like that one pipe, like it
Yeah.
Hmm.
stretched for miles.
But they also
So
showed it like a few days before. It just makes me ask questions.
I'm
yeah, don't
wondering
ask
they
questions.
just did it because they just wanted to have Jackson seem more vulnerable, just for the show. Like, I think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it, in the game, it's like you said, it was like the safe haven, and obviously there probably been attacks throughout the years or whatnot. But I
Yeah,
think for the show purposes, I think they just wanted to show that even though Jackson is this huge community, that they are vulnerable. And I think that's why they probably did the whole siege of Jackson, just to be like, hey, when shit hits the fan, shit really hits the fan, and
It's
they're going to
Mhm.
feel it.
I think they also show how strong of a community they have because everyone has a role. Um,
Yeah.
and you can
Mhm.
tell that they have these practice drills just like we had in freaking elementary school for all the fire drills we did. Like
It,
Oh,
it,
most
it
of the times
was
it most of the
it
times it wasn't
was
necessary,
it
but
was a
like
spectacle, and it did make me like it was like, oh, this is what World War Z was trying to do.
mhm.
Like,
yeah.
and I did think like those first few moments. I mean, all of it was. Thought it was pretty cool. Like him noticing all the horde coming after him. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like especially in this world, why you would want to be as remote as you can.
hmm
It also makes me question then, like, what will the other settlements? How will they react to something like that, if it even has that at all?
Right.
Um, but yeah, so obviously that happens. Then I think then it cuts into kind of two places, right? It cuts into like the siege part, um, which I feel like that's where we can then kind of resume talking about and just
Well, I did want to go back because when you mentioned when Jesse and Ellie were on patrol and they stopped by Eugene's like a little like safe house or man cave, I should say. Wonder what kind of snacks he has in his man cave. But it was just interesting to see them change it because I had so many thoughts on what to expect from this scene, but since they decided to put Dina with Joel, it's like everything is different now.
yeah.
So everything I thought was going to happen, the reveal of the bite, you know how we were talking about that last discussion.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like if I mean, they'll probably have another moment where obviously they're going to have several moments with Ellie and Dina together for her to find out that way, and also finding out Dina's secret. But that's when you find out that Eugene was a Firefly, and then Jesse says, "Oh yeah, he left back in like 2010." So I don't remember in the lore when the Fireflies were created. I know Outbreak Day was 2003, like fall 2003 in the show's universe. Um, so I don't know if it was like a couple of years or what have you, but it was interesting just to see their interactions and how limited it was, like how little time they spent there before they found out that Joel and Dina hadn't like responded in a while, and the storm's getting bad,
Yeah.
and they have to go, and and then Ellie's like, okay, well, I'm gonna grab this gas mask bong and put that in my bag, and then grab some joints, and I'm like, I wonder if that gas mask will come in handy later.
Right.
So I did think that because it did look
yeah, I thought
like,
that too.
so we'll see. Because we do know spores are back, so I wonder if you actually utilizes what she just picked up. I do like those little continuity things in TV
Well,
shows.
and I think so too, is I think what's going to come into play, and I know me and you talked like a couple days ago about this just briefly, but wouldn't that be a way to find out that Dina's pregnant as well? Like, let's say they're out on the road together, and Ellie wants to smoke some shit, and Dina's like, "Well, I can't because I'm pregnant, right?" I feel like
That
that might be the way that she reveals her pregnancy to Ellie. I think
Yeah,
Um,
if they decide to show that, I think that would be a
if they
good
do
plot
it,
device.
yeah,
I
Mhm.
think it'll be more of a subtle, like kind of clue rather than
kind
the
of like her getting
reveal.
sick or something, kind of like how they
Yeah,
did in the game where she was kind of
yeah,
getting sick.
Or she's like, "No, I'm not doing that," and then she gets sick, and you're kind of like, "Well, this is like
Oh,
weird." Like
right.
like not just like this one
Something,
item.
yeah, yeah.
You need like a critical point to like then reveal it. Um, but no, I that could be like a piece of it. I think it's gonna be the piece because if I remember in the game, she like takes off her masks and is like, "I'm immune" or something like that.
Mhm.
yes.
So I
Yeah.
That's when
think
she reveals it to
I
Dina.
think that'll probably be more what it's used for. Also that good Kush. Yeah.
This is the dollar store. How good can it be?
It's 7-Eleven Kush. I don't know.
Well, going into the blizzard, now Ellie and Jesse, and again, like I do think that they're doing a good job at capturing how much of an unlikable character Ellie is in this section of the game. Because I don't know about you guys, but Um, I thought she was like really standoffish, and I'm trying to remember like in the first game she's sassy, super sarcastic, but now it's just like you're edgy, but you're unlikable. Like nobody really like trusts you, but they want to like you, and I don't know. Like I thought that they captured her mannerisms pretty well.
She's just being a teenager,
I was just gonna
honestly.
say,
That's
I
it.
think it's
It's
I
that
think it's
angst.
just being a
It's
teenager.
that angst.
Yeah, it's that teenage hormones
It's
going on.
angst.
Like, think about it. She's right in that realm of just, trying to figure out who she wants to be, and
Yeah,
then all this shit's going on.
because
So,
what is she's probably like 17, 18,
No,
I
she's
think
19.
19. She's 19
19.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's still right in that ripe age.
And here's the other thing about the whole age part is Abby was also 19 when she lost
Right.
her father. So, talking about cycles, like the cycles of violence, how it started with, Joel and the Fireflies, and then, um, soon to be Abby with Joel, and then Ellie with everyone else affiliated with Abby. So it's just like an endless cycle. And I think Ellie is driven by not just like the teenage hormones, as previously discussed, but also just she's got no one to seek counsel with that she trusts. Like Joel was one of the only people that she really trusted, apart from Dina, but in like a
Yeah.
mentor way.
Yeah.
So she's fueled by this like anger inside because she never really got to resolve things with Joel as much as she wanted to. And I think that's what also like compels her to go through with the plan regardless of the risks, knowing how dangerous it's going to be. She even states like I don't care. And we'll obviously we'll see that how they execute that in the next episode.
Yeah.
um, but ultimately, once it gets to that scene where Joel and Dina are brought in with the group, I did have a little gripe because um, I liked how Dina the saw the patch on the backpack. Because in the games, the way Ellie and Tommy find out when they're on patrol is like the patches,
Hmm.
or in that room they see like the patches on their jacket. So in this one, they're not wearing like their uniforms, so she sees the patch on the backpack. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then
Yeah.
also it also signifies Dina's the one with the clue to help Ellie find where they are,
Hmm.
because we know WLF stands for Washington Liberation Front, which is solely based in Seattle. So that kind of gives them like their one hint. um, but the gripe I had was understanding that it's cold out. Why is no one else that was outside freezing like she was? Unless it's to signify that her immune system is slightly weakened because she is pregnant.
Or the fact that she's just been out there longer, out in the
Yeah.
snow longer,
But her
maybe.
Okay, but her and Joel have been out there for the same amount of time, right?
Well, I think
The-
Joel has that like survivalist
yeah, he might be
stamina
able to
to him.
More
yeah,
Yeah, like
conditioned to
yeah.
it?
more condition to it.
All
Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I get it, but it takes how many people are holding her? Is it one or two people that they're
Uh,
holding her?
I think two. Maybe one. Wait, was it two? I think it's two, right?
I thought so. And then Mel was the one that gave her the sedative.
Yeah.
And I like how like calm they were like approaching. I'm like, you could have just knocked her out. Like, I don't
Yeah, but they
know.
were already hesitant with the plan in the first place. And before we get to the main event, like it was kind of interesting to see their facial expressions when shit was actually starting to kind of unfold a little bit. Like they
As
were even
Abby's making the
they wanted to
interactions.
dip. They wanted to dip, and that's why like Mel when she's giving the setup, she's like, "Hey, we're not going to do anything with you." But then Abby had to say, "Well, if you don't do them, it just bash your head." And it's like, okay, yeah, well, and you could tell they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing that. We're just going to knock her out, and that'll be it."
Like I do like how they captured Joel's vulnerability in this moment,
Yeah,
knowing that shit, I don't want anything to happen to Dina. So I can't move, like I can't reach for my gun. Like, yeah, that tension building with Abby's monologue, I thought was I thought it was a really good scene. And then um, once Abby like makes eye contact with the golf clubs, I'm like, oh, they are gonna
We.
do this.
I was like, where are they? There they are. There's
Yeah.
those Abby freaking 9 irons.
Oh, I
I'm
know,
like,
right?
And this is what was funny is like, well, not funny, but it's interesting that in the game the golf club survives the duration of the of that encounter. Yet in the show it breaks after like the second hit,
Right.
like the third hit.
Well,
It's like that's the one you get off of
yeah.
Amazon for
Well,
19.99.
I wonder if maybe they're just like, fuck it, it's brittle already, so that's why it broke after just a couple swings on his leg, you know?
mhm.
I think
um,
it makes a little bit more sense with how that happened, and then instead of continuously whacking him, to like stab him instead when it gets to that moment with the
Hmm.
broken golf handle, um, just because she's not built like an ox like she is in the
No,
game.
no.
So is it really believable for her to be just like swinging that whole time?
Yeah, and that's why they made it more personable this time,
They
where she
definitely
decided to.
did.
Yeah, that's why they made her punch him in the
Hmm.
face to death, not with the golf club this time. And I actually loved it because that really just kind of made it a sticking point. Like, yeah, this is some deep personal shit that she's, doing right now. So I liked it.
Meanwhile, the team behind her is just like, oh,
Yeah,
oh.
I know. Like they said at the beginning, he's just like his plan was to just get her to leave, and and they didn't sign up for this. That's why they're just like, holy shit.
I did laugh because I will say with the line delivery, like I felt some of it was a little corny. Where I was
Hmm.
like, this is
Yeah,
okay. Like I'm not convinced. I'm not
it was for
convinced.
the audience for
It was
sure,
yeah,
like
it was
for
the
the
audience to be
TV.
like, I'm
Yeah,
the villain and this is my reveal and I'm
yeah,
mad.
When she says, "Shut up,"
Dude, when Joel
yeah.
finally went, would you shut the fuck up and just get
That
on
was
with it?
funny. Yeah,
I was like, this is what
I.
everyone's like thinking right now. Just like
Yeah.
don't like you're trying to do this like mob boss thing. Like, no, everyone no one's on board. Um what was it? I will say this, I was hoping they did it and they did it, was shooting him in the leg. I
Yes.
did. I was like, I shouldn't say that I was praying for that, but it's such a shock. Like
Right.
it turns the power dynamic and the attitude like 180, where
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, like we don't like we're not here, we're not your friend. Boom, like now you can't
Yeah.
get away, and now you're in pain, and now you're in trouble. Like in
So,
the
Mhm.
game, it's such a whoa. Okay, we're in trouble. This is bad. Hold on a
Because
second.
because in the game they held him down before she shot him in the leg, right? Against the
No, no,
vanilla,
no,
it was
or
literally
before.
just like no, he was just
because
it was a
because in the
surprise.
yeah, because in the game, and again, this is one of the things I did want to mention. I'm glad they didn't go, at least for this scene. I'm glad they didn't go the video game route, where Joel and Tommy are just expressingly letting their guard down and telling them everything. I like
Yeah.
how in this one Joel
I get
says nearly nothing to give up their thing. I'm like, that's the Joel. That's the
Hmm.
Joel we all know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought
That
that was I thought that was really good of them.
yeah. In terms of the actual like block by block, some of it was a little corny, but like yeah, the bigger pieces and some of the bigger attitudes, I thought that was a much better portrayal of it. Um, now, obviously, do we want to get to the siege? Back to the siege, and then we'll talk about Ellie showing up.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Hmm.
the one thing I wanted to say that was kind of funny is where we left off before. I think was when the bloater was like cornering Tommy with the flamethrower. I liked that. I like that they showed the oxygen supply, like the fuel supply,
Yeah.
like depleting. Um, but this is Tommy, everyone. Do you really think he would like scuttle on the ground and back up against a box when you can clearly just jump on the boxes on the roof? Huh?
Well, he's got
Why does it
equipment on. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a flamethrower he's holding. I mean, that's pretty
Once it runs
complicated
out of
equipment.
fuel, drop that shit and go.
Well,
Well,
it looks like
but
it's
there's
harder to
this
take off than
fight or
it just
flight,
like
right? Yeah.
you don't just unequipped it in 2 seconds like the video game.
He doesn't
No,
put
you
it in
just
his backpack and then
What are you
brings out
talking
another
about? They don't
weapon,
have
right?
nanomachines in this show. They could just unequipped it like Snake does.
Yeah,
No.
apparently. But
Oh my
yeah,
god.
so I mean, I was thinking that that thing was just gonna murder him. I'm like, God, that thing is huge. And then
Oh
I kind of
yeah.
laughed when he just was like, I'm gonna kill you, huh? No, just kidding, I'm gonna die. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, cool, man. Um,
Satisfying. That was like satisfying
yeah,
to
again,
watch because
yeah,
good.
I do love like just how fast and how overwhelming like these like things are because they were just mowing down. They were doing everything they could, and
And
they were just
people
getting.
died.
And they
Oh
People
just,
yeah. Yeah.
they just, well, the right people died. Let's put it that way,
like
because
they made it through a
Yeah.
whole building and on the roof to kill these people. I'm like, good
Yeah.
lord, those are
I mean,
committed runners.
when you talked about plot armor, I think there's kind of okay, this was like spectacle. This was all spectacle. This was all to show off like what this town could do in case of a siege. It's like, hey, we want to see a scenario like that.
Mm.
I think on top of plot armor though, there's also like plot like auto aim assist, if I could put
Oh,
it
for
that way.
sure.
Yeah.
Because like I loved how all the infected start running down the street and then they just beeline it to the right and left. Like, okay, you go in that house, you go in that house, go right to the
Yes.
door. I'm like,
Yeah.
how does it know? How does it know to go
Well,
exactly that way?
I'm wondering, could it be because that's where the cordyceps and the pipes are, and that's where they're getting kind of their little pings to go, maybe?
I don't know because they don't
It's
show
my
that.
criticism. I'm just like,
Yeah.
how
Oh,
does
I
it know
know.
to just
Yeah.
take a hard right
Yeah,
into
it's
specific buildings and being
right.
like, all
Yeah.
right, now we're gonna go. And then they were like at the door where people were like underground. I'm like, how do they know they're there?
Maybe I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
They didn't
how?
make a noise.
I
And
know.
then yeah, so that's the plot like auto aim,
Yeah,
and then you have the
of
plot
course.
armor where it's like, all right, we're gonna have people like, you know what I actually kind of liked is I
Hmm.
liked how the two of the flamethrowers ran away. They
Oh
were
yeah.
like, I
That
was
was a
like, you know
totally
what?
Yeah.
believable scenario.
I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I bet you they would do that. Like they wouldn't.
Yeah.
They screw this. I'm not sitting here with a flamethrower. What the heck? I'm gonna get killed. And I was like, I actually kind of like that scene. I was like, that's pretty realistic.
They're like,
Yeah.
Um,
fuck this.
I liked what was it? Obviously the bloater. It just was a cool scene. It was really cool to watch. I think they definitely took inspiration from certain other shows. I mean, it's HBO. I bet you they were like, "Hey, we've
Yeah.
done this before," and they didn't make it dark this time. like
Oh, thank
they
God.
didn't do like Game of Thrones, where they're like, "You're not gonna see anything."
Okay, I have a question for you guys. What in the world were they thinking of adding like the canines to assist? The question I have is, as cool as it is, with them taking down the cordyceps, does that not infect them?
um,
I don't think
You
the
know what I
cordyceps
mean?
infected
If
the
they're biting
animals,
them and chewing
right?
on them to take them down,
no,
like
I
you
think
know
it's
they're
more like if you get a cut, like it infects your bloodstream that way, not if you're like ingesting it.
God, that's strange. I
No,
Hmm.
don't know. That was the only
it asked
nitpick.
for. I think they went. We're gonna lose. We just need to throw everything we have at it
Right,
because
yeah.
we can fight.
I liked it though. That's the
They're,
thing.
they're
My
Yeah!
just
question is,
hold on. They're just dogs, Lisa.
I will remember.
Yeah. No. So like, I mean, it's no, like I think they just went, we're losing. We need something to throw at it, like throw the dogs, because they're gonna either they die in these cages if we all die, or they die out there.
Yeah,
Which one's gonna help us out more? So yeah, and then that's
Yeah.
kind of where like both Tommy and what's the
Maria,
Maria were
when
just
they
getting a
reunite.
little bit of that plot armor. I'm like, how are you just standing like in the field, like just not getting like swiped right now? But again, it's kind of for the show.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
we
it just
digress.
it yeah, tangenting here, but it was just I think that was maybe more like it made me, I was already questioning that siege. I'm like, oh, they're gonna do a siege, and like with this
Mhm.
mechanic, it's making me ask questions, and then they kind of were like adding more questions. But like it was just enough to make me feel conflicted and not hate it, because obviously I was like, oh, this is pretty cool to see. Like, I don't really know any opportunity where you're going to see something like this again
Right.
from an infected standpoint. Like, I know that there's other things going on with like people versus people, but not like anything like this.
Yeah.
So maybe they were like, oh, we should, for the show, not for playing, we should show something like this. So
I I want to see Jackson's redemption. I want to see Jackson's character arc.
I,
What will be interesting is seeing that it's kind of in shambles right now. Will this change the trajectory of Tommy going on this mission to help
Oh
Ellie?
yeah, huh?
Does
will it
that
force
change at
him?
all?
Well, I think because they're survivors, it gives him a stronger need to stay to like
Yeah.
rebuild.
I think so, and I think Maria will be a big influence on that. Not just like their son, but convincing him to stay. Like whether it's like I don't know if it'll get to like an ultimatum point, but
Hmm.
we know that she was against Tommy leaving, and then he leaves in the game anyway. And I was kind of against that too. Like he should have just went with Ellie, knowing that she was going to go anyway. So it's like if you guys both go, you have a better chance. But then, like the way I rationalized it is, this is Tommy's way of mourning his brother and also giving
Right.
Ellie a head start by clearing out some people.
Hmm.
That's at least how I made sense of his story arc in the game. But I will be curious. I have a feeling that he may stay, but I'll
Yeah.
be surprised to see if they, um, if Tommy's forced into this mission with her. Well, I'll I'll be excited to see what happens. Even though I know what happens, but just you know what I mean. Like there's still like the level of newness that we just don't quite expect, but we know ultimately where things are going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like that in the midst of that battle, you did kind of have like two lovers fighting on the battlefield together and then reuniting at the end and embracing. Like that was really cool. I did like that. That was like the closure to the conflict. And then now we get to Ellie barging into the house. And here's the other thing. It's like in the game, did you guys take your time? I took my time collecting everything on
Yeah.
those bottom floors. I'm like, I don't have to go forward, but I'm trying to get all these items.
I'm trying to
He's
auto grab that loot,
fine.
and he's
Joel's
not going anywhere.
fine.
He'll be
Yeah, he's
alright.
not.
He'll be alright.
But there is a
Just
little tidbit I wanted to say before we get
hmm.
to Ellie joining in. So I found this out just I think it was yesterday. There was an article. So going into that scene with Joel and Abby. So I guess Caitlin's mom actually passed away. I think a few days beforehand before she shot that scene.
Oh,
So that scene for her, she said it was just like the hardest thing she had to do because she was already dealing with her own grief. And they
Oh,
even told her like
jeez.
they told her take all the time you need for whatever you need to do. But she said for herself, she's like she's like doing that scene was hard, but she's like it kind of helped her a bit in understanding of the whole grieving process because it's like like with her character it's like okay she lost her dad, now she's getting revenge for that, so just putting that emotional aspect into her own character and having to do that after something like that, I give her props. It's either a few days or a few weeks or something. Like it was like prior to filming that scene.
about like inspiration to strike a tear.
Yeah.
Well, the
Speaking about striking.
yeah. Speaking about striking,
Yeah.
what did you think when Ellie actually went through the door, gun up, and then having like a moment where she could like take a shot, but she doesn't know like what she's looking at yet. And then when she sees like, does she see Joel and then that's when they like subdue her?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
think the moment she sees him on the ground, that's when she kind of procks her gun and leans forward, and then that's when they kind of like grab her ass and chew her
Okay.
to the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, what was interesting is I had to watch it again because Nick, you were saying like,
I
oh,
know.
you can tell like
Her
her
British
accent comes
accent came
through.
out when she's like, "No, please don't." I know it came out, and I'm like,
Like
"Yeah, but
right
yeah,
before Abby
yeah,
stabs
yeah." Right
Joel. And
before you could hear just a little bit of the British come out, and I'm like, "It's okay. It happens." Like, here's the thing: you're not going to be perfect when it comes to acting and getting accents done. Like, it's hard. Like, I can't imagine doing that myself. So I give her a pass. I just found it funny,
it was just
like
noticeable. Yeah,
once
it
you
was just
hear
noticeable.
it, it's just like, okay, yeah.
Yep.
I'll have to see it now because I didn't
See,
realize that.
I didn't hear
Yeah,
it
so
the
like
first
right as
play
he's
around
lifting
either.
up, when Joel's lifting up right before he gets stabbed, she's like, "Please, please," and you hear the British just come out, and it's like, okay, this is Bella Ramsey, this ain't Ellie. What happened?
um, I did appreciate that, as graphic as it is, that they had Joel's face exactly
Yeah,
how it was in the position in the game.
Hmm.
Um, and Nick, you mentioned something like right after this once they leave. But like before we get to that, like I did want to say, like, if you were that group, including Abby, and Ellie says like, I'm gonna fucking kill all of you, like, if that threat is already there,
yeah.
like, do you take the risk of just letting that person go, even though she's not your immediate enemy, but you just killed
In
someone that she
in a real life
obviously.
scenario, probably yes, but like it's one of those things where it's like, yes, if the threat's there, but obviously if they did that, we don't get the show or game, so it's kind of hard to
Yeah.
go against it because for them, I'm kind of putting myself in their shoes. They didn't want to be there in the first place. They just want to get the hell out, and I
Right.
think for them, they don't know who Ellie is at that moment. Like they don't know the whole dynamics. They obviously can put two and two together, saying, okay, they know she knows Joel and Dina, but other than
But
that,
they have,
she hasn't
yeah,
done anything. Yeah, so they're just like, let's just get the fuck out and dip. So it's like I get that aspect, but it's one of those things where we see time and time again, whether it's movie shows or whatever, you let that one person go and then it bites you in the ass later. So but it's hard to kind of decide what to do in that situation.
Especially for what the environment is, where it's so easy to just murder someone.
Yeah.
Like there's in terms of that lack of like kind of the lawlessness of it. Um, like it's just there's no, to be honest, there's probably minimal repercussions to doing that. There's not really going to be, if anything, you're cutting loose ends. But um, yeah, I'm gonna guess they really lean on like kind of the, we don't want to be here, we don't want to do this. Like the only
It's
reason why we're
yeah.
even doing this is, and they didn't even do anything. Like it's just they
Yeah.
just let her facilitate. Maybe they're not as violent. They're more kind of soft and civilized. Like they're not
yeah.
like raiders. They're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're people. Like we don't want to do this. This sucks.
Yeah. And I think
Well,
that's the whole humanity aspect of it too. Like they still had that little left of it, whatever's there.
Hmm.
yeah, it was interesting when she was telling Joel like, we have an order, like our team has an order, and we don't kill like innocent people or people that can't defend themselves. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yet your dad, without a 14-year-old girl's consent, was going to extract her, basically her brain to conduct the research and development of a vaccine, like without even telling her. Like, how is that morally right? You know. But and again, that's kind of like part of Joel's decision, right? Is his world he saved with Ellie. Like he sacrificed a cure for the rest of humanity, because Ellie became his world after everything that they had been through, and his selfish like decision for his own existence, um, like saving her, and then obviously leading to his demise. But now Abby doesn't find out that she's immune until like the theater scene.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't know the whole interaction,
Oh yeah.
like the significance to Ellie being there. All she knows is like on the day of, a young girl was brought to the hospital that was immune, yet Abby doesn't put two and two together until much later.
Yeah.
Because I think Ellie tells her, right? Ellie tells her after their conflict.
I think so.
I think that's what happens.
Or I think there's a scene where it kind of basically reveals itself.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they execute it in the show.
But we were right. They had to do it this episode. I'm like, you gotta get it done.
Yeah.
Yep, first
Like they
episode
said,
set
they
up.
wanna keep pushing that timeline. And here's something that I didn't think about until just like the other day too, in terms of like pacing. Because in the game, we take over as Abby right after Joel's death. But because it's the TV show, we're not necessarily putting ourselves in that character yet. So now it's like, okay, this happened. Now we have a little bit of time to kind of stew on what happened before we probably get, Abby's perspective, for the show.
Like maybe they wait a beat to show her again.
Yeah, so I think we're going to get Ellie, of course, for the next episode, and then I wouldn't be surprised if we get Abby after that. It's like, okay, we're giving you guys like that nice little rest, but then we're going to show you Abby again, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be all Ellie next episode, maybe
Ellie
two,
and Dina.
Ellie, Dina, and then maybe it'll be Elliot, but then it'll start like giving Abby more time. Not maybe one episode where it's a full her, but like I would be more. I'd see it more being where it like kind of jumps back and forth.
I'm wondering how they're going to weave it because, like, I know for TV shows, it's sometimes jumping around too much can get a little confusing if you keep going to different characters. Luckily, there's only Abby on her side and Ellie on her side, so it's going to be interesting how they kind of weave the episodes together to make it feel smooth and not too jumpy, if that makes sense. Because like, there's been shows where it's like you have like, let's say 3 to 5 main characters, and then I think they're called like bottleneck episodes, I guess, where it's like you have one story per episode. So I wonder how they're going to kind of weave that through for each kind of storyline going forward.
I think they'll jump around to that. Like I think they'll have like an A and B story in almost every episode. But what's also interesting is to see how many of these flashbacks, because even though Joel is now gone, we're still going to see him in flashbacks to fill in those 5 years that they've been at Jackson, and what eventually like led to Joel and Ellie's growing tension towards the end there. But one thing, Nick, that I wanted you to say was when Ellie crawls to the body of Joel, like that was a pretty like sweet and endearing scene. And if you guys remember from the first game, after Joel gets injured and you play as Ellie for that short period, after she gives him the medicine, she like pulls the covers over him and then lays down next to him on her backpack. I thought that was a really interesting callback. You still see that Ellie cares, and now the anger.
Well, the thing is, though, the thing that was
now the
you
fucker.
Yeah, I know, huh? But the one thing I will say was interesting too, which I liked what they did in the show. So in the game, I think when Ellie saw Joel, I think he was already kind of too far gone to even realize that she was there. But because in the show, they made him kind of lean up a bit. So he got to see her fucking cry and lash out a little bit before he, gets stabbed in the neck. So it was kind of cool that his last moments were to kind of see Ellie not being so pissed at him, but actually like giving a shit at the very end of it. So
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say, Jacob?
Oh, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Oh, no. What did you guys think about them adding Ashley Johnson's version of the Valley? at
Oh,
the
the
end as like
song.
a closing
Those
song.
bastards.
Yeah.
Those
Oh,
bastards,
I literally
dude.
I told my friend, I was like, hey, I think that's Ashley Johnson. Like I'm like, look at that little call out they did. I was really happy they did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I noticed it, so
I liked it, and then, of course they had to show his corpse like being dragged
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Damn, dude.
But I do find it funny that he's like, the little only blood spot is like on the back of
Right
his
there in
head
the
and not
head.
where the neck is.
I
Like
know.
it was just kind of funny. I thought his body was going to be like on a horse, like kind of collapsed
yeah.
over, but put him in the body bag, it made sense. But I don't know.
Well, like, did either of you, I'm choosing to go into this season without watching any
Same.
trailers for the next episode. But Jacob, did you happen to see what it was?
No, but I mean, I don't know if I remember it so much, but I liked the they were talking about like the making of the episodes.
Hmm.
Joel's like final like death, um kind of like that's a prosthetic. That's not him. That's a wax. Like
Oh,
Joel,
wax model.
that's yeah, it's a wax model. That's not him laying there dead on the ground. They did a
Oh,
really
well,
good
I
job
know,
with that.
like when
Oh
he's dead,
yeah.
yeah, but like in the last moment when Ellie is like yelling out to him, that's still him because you can see like his hand like slightly
Oh yeah,
moving.
yeah, yeah. I just meant like when he actually dies, that's not him. I just thought that was
Mhm.
really cool.
Right, because they could have just like put the little like glue on the tip of the golf thing and put it on his neck, and they could CGI all that stuff or whatever they do.
Hmm.
It also went in like it sound. I don't know. The sound design behind that stab sounded weird. I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know
He's
about
like
that.
ding,
Yeah.
and I was yeah, that whole I was like, why do we
I'm glad I'm
gotta?
not alone in this.
I was like, what? I kind of was like, like everyone. I bet you the whole audience would have been like, oh no. I would have been like, heh, like what? Like almost like you could have put in like a rubber ducky noise, and I would have been like, that sounds the same.
or the rubber chicken sound.
Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
god. Well, what I don't know, like since neither of us have seen the clip for the next one, obviously we know what happens. Ellie's gonna talk to Tommy and ask permission to leave Jackson. The question stands if Tommy realizing his brother's gone, if he is also fueled by the same revenge as Ellie's gonna have. I'm really curious to see how they play this up, but a part of me thinks it's just going to be Ellie and Dina, and Tommy stays behind,
yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
and
Well, and
maybe
don't
he
forget
goes
Jesse.
later. No, I know, but Jesse doesn't go with
She is
them
one of the most
until later.
important characters in this show.
Well, one of the best supporting characters for sure.
We need a
Until
natural leader, okay, that needs to
yeah.
give them orders. I
How do you think the next episode will end?
uh,
Like if we're really like thinking like we have an idea that it's going to start in Jackson unless they start with a flashback, which they very well could. Maybe they do like a flashback sequence or a dream sequence with Ellie remembering Joel and then her waking up and then going to talk with Tommy and them. um
um,
but like where do you think a good stopping point would be thinking back to the game?
um I feel like it's gonna stop in Seattle in the theater, and then it's gonna be her leaving to go to like because I know you go to like a multiple few places.
Hmm.
It's gonna be
mhm.
her leaving to go to like start investigating in Seattle itself.
See, I wonder if it's the whole episode of getting to Seattle.
I don't think
um
so. I think they'll probably
No, I
cut in the
think
I think they'll
You
cut
don't
in the
think they
flash.
will?
no, because I
No.
think next episode, I think they're going to give their characters that time to breathe and mourn. I guess if that makes sense. But then I can kind of and knowing how TV kind of works too, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the episode they're just getting into Seattle and then we get like another Ashley Johnson song.
Well,
I don't know.
I
Like,
don't know. I'm getting
yeah.
like in my mind, I'm getting like Walking Dead vibes where I think it's like the end of the first episode with Rick on the horse going down
That
like going
highway,
down the street.
yeah,
Yeah. So like, what if they see the sign for Seattle?
yeah.
They
That's what I was
probably
thinking.
do
Yeah,
spend time in Seattle in this next episode because I think we're gonna be. It's got to be either this next episode or episode 4 when Ellie sings to Dina on the guitar. If they choose to go that route, I'm fairly certain that they filmed it. But we'll see. But I actually do like that moment in the game a lot. Like going back to what you were saying,
yeah.
like a breather moment, just like kind of take you out of the element.
I
Um,
think I wouldn't be surprised if they start adding in flashbacks too.
Mhm.
I think we'll at least get one to two.
I think episode 4, like after they do this episode with them mourning and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if episode 4 is Abby at the stadium where they introduce their whole community or whatnot, just to kind of get that started a little bit. Unless they wait until
I think they'll wait till episode
uh
4 or 5, probably episode 4.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. So like next episode they do like the breather, do that. Wait, when next episode's episode 3, so then yeah, so
Mhm.
4 and so maybe episode 5 is when we get Abby's stadium stuff, like before they kind of head out, I guess.
I don't know. I feel like it may be episode 4. Like I totally can get on board with having next episode just to be about the journey to Seattle and then running into like one of the WLF members or learning about like Seraphites through like, picked up notes or I don't know, like you have to imagine that they're going to take this step by step,
Yeah.
but since they already introduced the Stalker episode 1, how soon do we think that she's going to find out about the Seraphites?
I think
You
there's going to
know,
be sprinkled hints right as they get into the whole Seattle area. I think there's going to be hints right away, and we're just going to have to look out for them. I think that's how they're
because
going to do it.
because if they focus on just that for episode 3 and then episode 4 we jump from Ellie and Abby's perspective of their battles with the Seraphites, I feel like that could be a good way both sides in one episode over like the same conflict just in different areas.
Yeah,
uh so I don't know, we'll see, but maybe we'll get, I'm wondering when we get like the Eugene flashback, maybe that's what's going to be next. And then I feel like we have to get introduced to Eugene and Isaac around the same time, or maybe Isaac is in episode 4. By the way, I love the casting. I love that they went with this guy. Felix from Langley, brothers. Brother from CIA.
I thought he was a good choice. Yeah, yeah. I saw
Dude,
that. I was like, my
hilarious.
man, my man.
I fucking love his lines in Casino Royale. All right, well, we should probably wrap this up. Statements for
I
this
thought it was a
episode.
great episode.
I
I'd give it
really
like a
liked it.
9 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they did a good job. I think overall, I think they really kind of understood the audience of, this is more of a viewership, this is a TV show, and like how to take
Yeah.
the best qualities of the game versus adapting to probably what the audience will want to see because they have a different relationship with the story. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I thought it was pretty good. I have a few little more some questions, but
yep.
I
Yeah.
will bypass those questions for the spectacle.
You know what's funny is, how I was mentioning, like, I wonder if viewership will go down after this episode. The rating for the episode is high. However, the audience like score reflects like, oh my god, like
Well,
Yeah,
I
because
knew it.
they
I
didn't
knew
play
it.
the game.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny?
exactly.
Here's the thing. Even certain people who played the game, they're going to dip as well. Because, like, I've heard the other, end of the shtick where it's like a lot of people just didn't care for the episode because they want that 1-for-1 shot for the show. And I get it, but it's hard to just do a 1-for-1. So that's why, like, that whole attack on Jackson, a lot of people who play the games are like, why the fuck did they put that in? And I'm like, it's the show.
Man, they're
It's the
just
show.
haters.
Yeah, I
Haters.
know.
Yeah, I genuinely I like the episode. No, I think the only thing that was I was gonna say was like the last comment I made. With I knew that the viewership was going to go down just based on people not liking the execution
Oh,
of one of their favorite characters.
there's a whole compilation video of people who one played the game versus the other person who didn't
Mhm.
play the game,
Hmm.
and one of them was a couple, and she was like, "Why didn't you tell me? Like this is this awful. Like like
The
you're so
boyfriend's
mean.
just smiling.
Yeah, you're so mean for not telling me that he died."
Uh,
It was,
So a brief. I'd like to dedicate a moment for Joel. A brief little tribute. It's like he was the best guy around. What about the murders? What
the
murder?
murders.
uh,
All right, guys. Well, tune in for next week. Until next time, take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Beta.